Welcome to the Haunted 365, and in this video we're going to be making a skeleton gargoyle using a really cheap Dollar Tree skeleton and once again a Dollar Tree bat. So let's get to it. First thing we're going to do here is get rid of this loop on the top because we're not going to be hanging this. It'll be freestanding. Then I'll just kind of cut away this excess, get it reasonably smooth. Now for the bat, I'm not even going to bother taking the cardboard off of here because all we want is the wings. This could always be used for some sort of future project, but I have no idea what that would be at the moment. So he can just be chucked aside for right now. Now we have what we need. And the first thing we're gonna do is address these wings so that way they can be drying while we work on something else. All right, I've got some black plastic trash bag cut to the approximate size that I'm gonna need it to cover the wings from the back side, and I'm just gonna kind of skip through this process pretty quick because I detail it in full in the video on how to corpse the skeleton bat. I will leave a link that you can get to that video and see this whole process in detail. All right, I've got my black plastic trash bag glued to the backs of these wings here and just kind of flattened everything out and make sure that it's touching everywhere along the bones. And I just use some good old-fashioned Dollar Tree school glue. So now I'm gonna let these guys dry and move on to the skeleton part and getting him posed the way we want him. All right, this guy's pretty much really only jointed his legs at the hips and his arms at the shoulders. So to get him posed the way we want him, we're just gonna pull his arms off with these elbow joints and do the same at his knees. It's got like this little nub on the end of each of these joints, which is how it is held together inside the hole in here, but we don't need those for our purposes, so we are just gonna lop them off. Our guy's looking a little worse for wear now, but now he's at least in a condition that we can really work with him and put him back together the way we want him. And for that, we're gonna need the glue gun. All right, we wanna have this guy posed like in a crouching position. So we're gonna need to glue this back on so his leg is raised up and it's glued on there like that. Really get it in there and don't be stingy with the glue. And then we just hold this for a minute and let it dry. All right, now that that's dry, we're gonna do the exact same treatment to the other side. Okay, now that both of these have gotten solid, I'm gonna actually flip him over. Now I'm gonna back up these joints with a bunch more of this glue. I want these to be as solid as possible. All right, now that these joints are completely dry and they're really solid, now we need to put some glue on this hip joint here because we want the knee to be up like that. So that way, once they're glued in place, he can kind of be more in a sitting position, kind of like that. And now we just got to do the same thing to the other leg. All right, now that we have him to where he'll have a seated position, next thing I want to do is take this arm right here and have it going down to the ground in front of him, kind of like that-ish. But the first thing I need to do is make this hand actually bend back so it sits flat on the ground while the arm still goes up. And to do that, I'm just going to make a cut Make sure I got it the right way. Right underneath it here. That way I can snap it and bend it back the way I want. Kind of like that. And just kind of get an idea of how I'm going to glue this. Something along those lines. So in retrospect, I probably could have just left this arm alone and kept it intact. But, oh well. Didn't really know exactly what I was going to do until I started doing it. So we will glue it back together. If I can ever hold it. Alright, now that that arm's glued together, we got to work on this one. And the idea is to have this arm resting on this knee. So I got to just kind of figure out how we're going to do that and how to get the angles just right. But I can already tell you this hand is going to have to be bent back just like the other. So we're going to give it the same treatment of just a slice across the bottom. And break it on the score line and bend it back. We basically need to glue it about there and then have this one swing out up to it. Alright, now all I got to do is get these two parts glued together like that. I went ahead and not only glued right here, but also hit this shoulder joint a little bit just to help hold it into place. Alright, and now that I've got him exactly positioned the way I want him, I'm going to turn my attention to those wings, which should now be dry. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is take the razor knife and cut off all of the excess plastic. I'm going to cut kind of the classic bat shape in between these bones right here, kind of on a curve. Alright, now that we have our wings finished as far as that part goes, we're going to start on paint. I just have a little bit of black latex paint here that's been thinned out a little bit with water. I'm just going to put a fairly decent amount in here. That's taking just way too long. My bowl has a leak. There we go. Alright. Now we'll just go ahead and start painting the wings. I'm not really going to brush them, as I am going to just kind of stipple them. Getting this coat of paint on here will also serve to help the plastic adhere to these bones. It'll kind of encapsulate the whole thing in latex paint, which will help hold it all together. Now for the main attraction. Little piece of plastic right on the tip of his chin there from where he was molded, which I need to get rid of. I don't like my skeletons with goatees. I'm going to be a little more careful getting the paint on the glue joints. I'm not going to sit here and beat it to death and accidentally undo what I've done. Now the inevitable painting yourself into a corner. Make sure we get his little skeleton bum. Now, just sit him here and just touch up where I was touching. Now nothing left to do other than to hurry up and wait. But I am going to hit this stuff with a hairdryer because I'm not very patient. Alright, and now for a little change of scenery. I'm actually in the garage now, and you might actually hear it's raining and it's quite chilly and damp. But I need to be outside for this next part because now I'm switching to some just really super cheap gray spray primer. And I'm not just going to sit here and actually, paint the part because that would just defeat the purpose of everything I just did. I'm more or less just going to stand really far back, maybe keep the can 3, 4, 5 feet away and just mist this with the gray primer. Now I'm just kind of holding the can at a downward angle, and from about 1.5 feet to 2 feet above him, I'm just spraying down onto him. Just trying to give him a good mist of gray. Alright, now we'll just let that dry for about 10 or 15 minutes. It would normally dry in just 2 or 3, but it's only about 59 degrees and raining outside, so it's pretty damp, so it'll probably take a little longer than usual. Alright, back in the studio now, and this guy and the wings are pretty well dry. I just have some, don't have any more of my little tubes of white acrylic paint, but I do have this, and it's airbrush paint, and it'll work just as well. If you don't have this, then by all means use the acrylic in the tube, because it will probably even work better than this. I'm just going to put out a little glob here. And to that, I'm going to add just the least little touch of black acrylic. Very, very little. I just don't want this to be stark white. I'm going to add just a tiny little touch more. Actually, just what came off of my finger is probably more than enough. That's more like the color I'm looking for. I want pretty much the medium shade in between white and the gray that he already is now. Now I got my trusty old chip brush, and I'm going to give it a bit of a haircut. I'm not going to cut it off really short, but all these little frayed pieces on the end I don't want. So I'm going to try to cut this off a little more straight with the world's dullest scissors. It's better, it'll do. Alright, I'm gonna go into this gray color. Just keep tapping it and get it pretty dry. And then start going over these high points. Starting to have a little contrast. I'm just lightly gonna go over the back here. Mainly just trying to pick up the outline of these ribs of the wings. All right, we'll move on to the next. Now let's move on to the guy. Now I'm just kind of jabbing and moving just a little bit to the side just to kind of stipple a little bit when the brush has gotten almost completely dry, just to give it more of a speckled look. I'm going to do the same sort of stippling on the arms, because I don't really have a lot of detail there. And the back of the legs. You don't want to go too crazy with the stippling and end up just making the thing a lighter shade of gray. Just enough for effect. Oh, if you haven't guessed, we're going for a very like stone look. I guess it's pretty obvious at this point. It really brings out the detail in the hand. I'm gonna go across in this direction to kind of bring out the separation of these bones right here. Alright, and now for our final highlight, I'm just going to put out some more straight white, and I'm just going to go into it with this same dirty brush and then get it pretty dry, and we're just going to hit over the absolute high points just to bring out the detail that much more. I'm just barely touching. All right. And without going into any more paint and just using the tiny little bit that's still left on the brush, I'm going to do the same as before and then just hit it here and there very sparingly with this white color. I don't want to go too far with it because I don't want to lose all of my detail. But I just want to add a little bit of interest to the areas that didn't get that final highlight color. And we certainly don't want to forget about the wings. So we're going to give them a little brush too. All right. And for the final step, all we gotta do is glue on the wings. All right, back to the hot glue. And the back of these wings have a little nub on there where they attach to the bat. So I'm gonna need to remove that. And stick it. And we do the same to the other side. Try to make sure we get them pretty even. And now we have the finished product. And who would have thought a Dollar Tree really crappy skeleton and a Dollar Tree bat could come together and make something cool. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you already haven't, make sure you click that notification bell so you'll be notified anytime I post a new video, and until next time, keep it creepy.